Hey guys, and welcome to a best of 5 showdown between the mighty Tlaxtlan Soothsayer up against Faust. It should be a very fun game indeed. Now this is the final from the recent Death Before Dishonour qualifier number 3, I believe. Unfortunately we had some issues with Steam, which does kind of suck, but we have managed to get the guys to play offline here, and I'm going to be casting the replays for you today. And that has come with several bonuses. I can go through both the armies with a little bit more detail, as well as making this back up to a best of 5. It was going to have to be a best of 3 on the stream, and whoever wins this will of course book their place in the Season 4 finals, alongside ODM's Inticity and Extreme Meme Team's Noob for Life. So without further ado, let's hop in here and look at Tlaxtlan's Greenskins forces. In the front lines we have a mixture of basic goblins, as well as the 8 peak loonies, of course, going to be coming in with their wrecking balls, which these guys do so much crazy damage. Of course, they are unbreakable. More goblins into the sunset, and orc boys protecting some orc arrow boys, which is a pretty decent format overall. Nice and wide greenskin force. Now, one thing that I think is really underrated from the latest DLC is the buffs to the orc boar boys. These guys are now rocking a pretty solid 65 armor and makes them a fantastic counter-strike unit. They can counter-charge the enemy and block them up and do some pretty decent damage. So we do have 4 of those guys. Looks like we have some orc boar boy biggins mixed in with them. We do have a unit of black orcs in the backup line here, just to push forward and deal with much tougher foes. We have the Hammer of Gork, a unit we saw quite a lot in the tournament, and double Goblin Wolf Chariot. It's going to be very interested to see how these guys perform. It always makes me laugh how pitifully tiny the actual Chariot is here. They do some small skirmish kind of range fire and can be used to run over troops and just block people in general. It looks like for a leadership core here, we do have a giant river troll hag, a very popular pick. She is horrific to look at, but of course she does make up for that with her mighty magic. Coming in with a spirit leech, she does of course have Miva as well to slow down the enemy and nice map control, and Assault of Stone, which is a magical damage medium strike area, strong versus a single unit bombardment. I haven't seen that in action, so looking forward to that. Try and keep an eye out for that one. We do have a Goblin Big Boss who's going to be picked incredibly often now. I can see him being a big pick for competitive games simply because they need stabbing is such a good ability. You drop it on the enemy lord or hero and all of a sudden their armor and melee defense gets absolutely nuked. For a Lord, it looks like he's rolling with Snar Snake here, who is very, very competitive now with the new changes. Not only does he have charge defense against all foes, he's anti-large and all that good stuff, coming in with the Fermented Fungi, which can, of course, rampage opponents if you've done enough damage to them, as well as minusing their melee defense, and also Spite of the Bad Moon is very powerful indeed. I love giving a large area of effect bonus against a large. Very powerful stuff overall. So really fun Greenskins build, and let's see what Faust is going to be bringing with the Dark Elves. So we do have double Dark Rider repeater crossbows, it looks like, in the front line. In fact, 3 units of these guys. They are so good, a staple in almost every single Dark Elf build. These guys do great AP and very annoying and pesky to catch. We do have some Doomfire Warlocks as well. We have Dark Riders with shields, Cold One Knight, so a ton of skirmish potential here. Really like this build so far, but of course he can pack a punch in melee combat. Blackguard of Naggarond, looks like we have 2 units of those, 3 units of the Blixors. Let's actually start the game now. We have a Bloodrack Medusa. What is this? Absolutely crazy. Don't get to see her too often at all, but she does come with some nice long-range bombardment and is a decent melee combatant overall. Very cool model. We do have Squadron of Chariots on the left-hand flank, and up in the skies, we have a Supreme Sorceress of Fire, which is really deadly cool. Normally see Marathi or Malekith, and she's going to be bringing Burning Head, Cascade and Fire Cloak, and Fireball. Opal Amulet as well for a nice bit of protection. First Fireball is going to be going down range. I'm assuming it's going to be going after the Hammer of Gork here, trying to destroy an artillery piece. Looks like it does hit, despite the good micro to bin the goblins off the artillery piece, but it looks like all 3 models are still active and fine for now, as the early skirmishing does get underway. Dark Rider is going to be peppering down some fools here, but Goblin Wolf Chads are going to be used as a counter skirmish. They're going to be pushing forward and getting, 1 or 2 little arrows floating over, and they're doing some little poke damage, but they really do lack any kind of damage output, to be honest. Squadron of Chariot is starting to go down the left-hand flank pretty aggressively here. Could easily do some cycle charging into the goblins. These guys are expendable, of course, and not going to be worth too much money. A second Fireball is coming in, going after the Hammer of Gork, which I really like this play. I've seen a lot of people try and use Fireballs on the giant River Troll Hag. Of course, she does have regeneration, but the problem with that is Fireball takes a while to actually bring down something so mighty, and she is, of course, going to be healing and all that good stuff. Squadron of Chariots have started to change their shots onto the Black Orcs, it looks like, but counter skirmishing is going on the front front line. And the Greenskin Dagger is some serious firepower. It looks like only Orc arrow boys, but these guys over the course of a whole battle will do some pretty good work. Looks like they do take a shot there from the Medusa, but they are going to be fleeing just in time out of the way of the Burning Head. Fantastic micro here. They take a little bit of a scathe in there, some hot shots, but for the most part they are going to be fine. Looks like the Dark Riders certainly getting the worst of the engagements here. The Orc Arrow Boys certainly managing to pin those guys back and keep them at arm's reach, buffering them away from the enemy. Now it looks like really nice play coming in here by Faust. He's moving up the Bleak Sword to try and deal with the 8 Peak Loonies, trying to bait out their Wrecking Balls, as you can see, are coming down now. These Glorious Fanatics are going to get fantastic value, but at least it's not going down on the Blackguard. As you see, as soon as they're released, there's a long cooldown on that, and that's when the Blackguard do start to engage. So great micro coming in by the mighty Faust there. Looks like some of the Orc Arrow Boys are starting to rout, getting a little bit beaten up, getting focused down by the Dark Riders, and a little bit of a crossfire. It looks like another fireball coming in on the Hammer of Gork. I believe this may even be the third one coming in. But still, all 3 artillery pieces are active. Is this going to get one? Oh, looks like it does overshoot a bit, and actually kind of whiffs completely here. The Hammer of Gork up to 14 kills, not doing too bad. And the Bleak Swords are trading relatively effective up against the 8 Peak Loonies, despite the fact they did take that horrible initial kind of swinging engagement. Looks like, though, a nice overload here coming from the Giant River Troll Hag, Goblin Big Boss, as well as the Goblin Wolf Chat, just breaking those Bleak Swords very quickly before falling back once again. Really nice mobility here as the Orc Boar Boy Biggins do start to roll in the front line to help out the Orc Boys, who are getting outclassed a little here. But nice counter charge coming in. The Hogs are certainly going to be riding deep into the Bleak Swords lines here. The Dark Riders can do decent damage to them, but with their added armour, they are certainly a lot more tanky. Blackguard deciding to fall back as the 8 Peak Loonies do start to push in. Blackhawks waiting to get their blades wet as well. Blackguard and Lagrange doing obviously quite good up against the Orc Boys. And it looks like another Burning Head came in, but was dodged once again by the Orc Arrow Boys. And the Blackhawks getting a flanking charge on the Blackguard is going to be pivotal here in this engagement, as these guys do start to get clobbed pretty badly. A Soul Blight has been popped though to try and keep these guys active as Doomfire Warlocks ride in to their aid. Looks like we are going to get another spell coming down on the Orc Boys. It looks like there's a nice little bombardment there, but not going to be doing too much damage. The Dark Riders are having to flee back from this main engagement. Cold War Knights getting dragged down by the sheer volume here of Greenskins pushing down this right-hand side. Orc Boar Boys really been fantastically used this game, chasing down those Cold Ones, and with the War Pops, they are going to be turned into World Beaters. Balance Power is still dead even at this moment. Supreme Sorcerers very healthy, but Orc Arrow Boys are starting to get back in, and it looks like the Greenskins slowly getting the upper hand. So 8 Peak Loonies doing some decent work so far. Orc Arrow Boys running into combat here up against the Blackguard, I suppose, buffed up by the War that is running through their veins right now, getting a little ahead of themselves and just starting to charge into glorious combat just as it wears off. Some of the Orc Boys are starting to be pulled down here by the consistent fire by the Dark Riders, but Goblin Wolf Chariots pinning these guys in, chasing them down and being a real pain in the arse. These guys are incredibly fast and a really good, fantastic harass unit here. Giant River Troll Hag as well, moving into the back with basic impunity. There's not too much that can take it down very quickly here. Supreme Sorceress needs to get into the action a little bit more, but of course it's quite tough being a sorceress herself. Fermented Fungi has been popped on the Dark Riders, rampaging them in to the Goblin Big Boss, Snarl Snake, and the Orc Boar Boy. Certainly not where these guys want to be. They want to back their skirmishing, but they've gone mad from the fumes of the fungi and are slowly being carved up here. Looks like Doomfire Warlock's been chucked in an attempt to rescue the situation. Even Supreme Sorceress as well doing some nasty spells here as well, trying to keep these guys going as long as possible. But it's not looking good. Blood Rat Producer up to 98 kills. Really interesting pick who's done a ton of work so far. Looks like the Greenskins slowly starting to run out of steam though. Bleak Swords as well as Dark Riders and Blackguard forcing their way through, hunting down the Orc Arrow Boys and making them pay for every Druchii life they have taken. Not too much left on the battlefield at all for either player here. Goblin Wolf Rider Chariots up to 30 kills, not doing too bad, hunting down people in the back lines. And really good play here, taking the Doomfire Warlocks who are very beat up and the Supreme Sorceress and hunting down these Orc Boar Boys. Very close game indeed. Balance Power still dead even here as we do come into the later echelons of the game. Unfortunately, the Medusa is being hunted down now by a very angry Giant River Troll Hag, probably disgusted at such a creature who is fleeing here. Goblin Big Boss though, going to be a pain in the butt hunting them down. And the one thing that is very scary here for the Dark Elves is the hero core for the Greenskins is still very, very healthy and deadly indeed. Blackguard trying their best up against Black Orcs, but they are simply going to be outclassed here by those huge cleavers and slowly dragged down. But they've done very good for themselves. Up to 103 kills is very impressive. And we do have some Witchcraft coming in. A Soul Blight going to allow the Blackguard to trade very effectively here. down in the main engagement. Looks like Dark Riders attempting to isolate the big boss. He is very squishy and force him back in an attempt to save the Blood Rat Medusa, who is routing currently and fleeing for the hills. Balance power steadily going in the Greenskins' favour, but it's very, very close here. Looks like the Dark Elves probably won the majority of the infantry engagements. It's just that hero core which is really pushing that in the right direction. Wolf Chariot's been used effectively here in the late game just to break off troops returning to the fray who have been very beaten up and weakened, and these guys are going to be routing out. They can simply be chased off and shattered. There's a nice power of strength for the Dark Elves in the centre, but the Blood Rat Medusa has run out of ammunition. Dark Riders being used effectively to chase down Wolf Rider Chariots, Bleak Swords equally onto the Orc Boys, and there's still some very healthy Scourge Runner Chariots here who could certainly do a good number on the majority of what is left. But yeah, this is going to be tough, this little core right here. Looks like we do have a Spirit Leech going down on the Blood Rat Medusa. Extended cast range has been popped as well, just to make sure they can catch her, and that may be enough to break her as well, as those ticks do slowly pick at her health here. Goblin Big Boss just hunting down the Black Guard here, which is a fantastic trade with the Black Orcs, who did finally manage to win that engagement. Up to 55 kills, they've taken an absolute beating, but have been a stable centre of the front line for the Greenskins, where everything around them was unfortunately crumbling. Orc Boys still fighting out. Is there any of the little Gobbos left? We do have some Goblins rallying on the edge of the field. Looks like we don't have the 8-peak Looney, so unfortunately no more Fanatics to check out here. Balance power though slowly gaining more and more momentum here for the Greenskins, as the Dark Elves' low numbers do start to dwindle. Orc Boys going up against the Black Guard here. They're not doing too bad. Both forces are starting to waver a little bit, and this is where the cheap Chariots can come in and help decisively win an engagement. In comes the Goblin Big Boss. Slippery has been popped, increasing his speed and so forth, but he is surrounded by Black Guard. Not where he wants to be, but he's a very quick and slippery customer. Should be able to fall back pretty effectively. Now, there is some ammunition left on the Dark Riders, but where do you put it? There's so many targets I'd want to be shooting. Looks like the Giant Rebel Hag was actually using this rock as a little bit of cover that has emerged from her evil lair here, and we're going to get a Chariot off. The cheaper Goblin Wolf Chats, though, do have some ammunition left, so they can simply kite back and get in those little tiny bits of dig at their HP. A really nice fireball coming in, going after the Orc Boar Boys, trying to break those guys off the field and even up the playing field just a little bit. Goblins are slowly coming back here. Looks like they have been remembered. They are moving now. And this is very close, but it's going to be tough. I don't think there's any way the Dark Elves can pick apart the remains of this army, but we'll have to see. Orc Boar Boys do come in for a decisive engagement up against the Blood Rat Medusa, pinning her in place and allowing the Giant Provincial Hag plus Snarsnake to come in here, and Snarsnake will love to face this Snake Lady right here. His anti-large is certainly going to help. Scourge Runner Chat's been thrown in, as well as the Dark Riders, in an attempt to save the units he can, but those guys, once again, are going to be a perfect target for Snarsnake. Supreme Sorceress attempting to chase down the Goblin Wolf Chariots in the distance and push them away from the main engagement. Nice cycle charging coming in, running over some of those Black Orcs. Almost all the units, models in the unit, did get flung to the ground, but the Death Hag is making them pay with every swing of her big old meat stack or her wooden staff on some god-awful breath there by the looks of it, is pulling down more and more Dark Riders, and it looks like a lot of the Dark Elves have started to lose hope here. We have a routing Blood Rat Medusa, and the Black Guard of Nagrund have in fact been shattered. A Fungi has been popped on the Scourge Runner Chariot, so no more skirmishing for him, and unfortunately that is going to drag him into the nasty clutches of this Giant Roadtroll Hag and Snarsnake. But it looks like he's going away for a decent amount of time before wrapping back around, still going after the Goblin Wolf Chariots, which is pretty funny actually. Even though it is a rampage, it's completely ignoring this big blob here, which certainly is infuriating the Greenskins greatly. Black Orcs in mortal combat here, up against some Dark Riders, dragging a few of these Elves from their horses down into the dirt and mud of this war zone here. And the Supreme Sorceress just about trying to escape. They need stabbing has been popped, but she's going to be able to effectively get up into the air. Scourge Runner Chariots are now got themselves back under control a little bit and still scrapping up against this Goblin Wolf Chariot. But it looks like Dark Riders have been forced off, as well as Bleak Swords. This last Scourge Runner Chariot is going pretty dirty into the Goblins as Supreme Sorceress stomps in as well, attempting to break these guys, but the full health Snarsnake is starting to scheme and come over here. Giant Rebel Hag as well is slowly coming over, and a nice Spirit Leech on top of the Supreme Sorceress is going to force army losses, and that is going to be game 1 to Sooth. Very good game indeed. So let's go to the end screen here and do a tiny wee bit of analysis on both the builds before we hop into the next one. So that's going to be game 1. Before I forget, I'm going to update the scoreboard here. So Sooth takes that 1-0, and this of course is a best of 5. So overall, super fun stuff indeed. Soothsayer, very important pick here. Did some really decent work taking down large entities, but he's probably going to be the most competitive Greenskin Lord, or at least one of them. I think we're going to see a ton more of the Warlord of the 8 Peaks in upcoming tourneys and so forth. And solid build overall, nice, cheap and cheerful mass in the front line, but there is some more hard-hitting units in there as well. I really like the Orc Boar Boys. I think they've been shown to be a very competitive unit now with that added armor. Fantastic at doing the counter charge, and because you can bring so many cheap units in the front line, you can get so many good engagements with them. But one of the units I was most impressed with was the Goblin Wolf Chariot. I've pretty much never seen these guys used, as I think they're considered by most to be pretty terrible, but they were really good anti-skirmish, forcing back the Dark Rise, and if you shoot them, who cares? They're cheap goblins, and you're simply wasting your shots. So really nice build overall. As for Faust, he certainly had the tools here and played a very good game. 100 kills on a Bloodrack Medusa, always good to see her in action. Much like the Chariot, I don't get to see her that much at all, unfortunately, but slowly got dragged down by the sheer number here of those Orc Boar Boys. Maybe if one of those skulls, burning heads, did manage to hit and do some initial damage early on, he perhaps could have brought the game back. But fantastic micro early on to really neuter the strength of the 8 Peak Loonies. Everyone now knows how powerful their fanatics are, and he managed to get them wasted on just a simple unit of Bleak Sword. So great play overall by both players. Now unfortunately I'm going to have to pop up a screen blocker here quickly, as of course I don't want you guys to see my little replay selection and know how many games that are going to be. So I'm going to be loading into game 2 now, which is going to be Faust Vampire Coast up against Soothsayer's Empire. So let's hop in here, and before I forget, boop, take away the blocker there. And here we go, we are on Languille, which I probably butchered the name, but I've been told to say it in about 50 different ways. But it looks like Faust is going to be taking Mr. Luther Harkin here up in the skies, and Tlaxtlan Soothsayer instead going for the greatest moustache in the game. It's going to be a very fun matchup overall. Let's hop in here, check out the builds, and get this battle underway. So let's just go to slow mode this time and pop in and have a little look at Faust trying to get his way back into this best of 5 series. Up in the skies, Luther Harkin, very competitive pick and decent character sniper overall. One of the best duelists in the game, coming in with Hornswagger, which is such a nice ability, and of course Death Shriek can do some fantastic work. Now for his front line, cheap and cheerful chaff, which is what to be expected coming in from the coast. Zombie pirate deck cam mobs dotted all the way along, which is some pretty good stuff, and it looks like they are going to be backed up by a couple of units of bombers. And as we've seen overall through the course of recent tournaments, these guys do a huge amount of damage. There's also some zombie pirate gunny mob handguns mixed in there as well. Looks like 3 units of these guys, which is a nice inclusion. Adds a nice bit of variety instead of going full bombers. Hidden in the trees here, we do have triple bronze chevron mortars. Going to be very capable of doing some decent damage. And the vampire fleet captain of vampires coming with Invocation of Heck for that nice healing, as well as Raise Dead. Over hidden in the flank on the right hand side, we do have some Rotten Prometheans, nice blocking mass, very tanky, good old roadblock, as well as a couple units of scurvy dogs. And from first hand experience, after being kicked out of the ECL by Faust, he is incredibly good with his scurvy dogs. They are pesky indeed. Second unit of Rotten Prometheans on the left hand flank, and another mortar as well, protected by some polearms. Really solid build, going to be trying to grind out the Empire in that absolute meat grinder in the trees. Now for Soothsayer and his forces of the Empire, the mighty chosen of Sigma. In the front lines we do have swordsmen, including the Sigma Sons themselves. The rock hard supporters of Sigma, of course, are unbreakable, always a good frontline troop. Swordsmen dotted all the way along with a couple of spearmen units and some flagellants in the mix for good luck. Looks like he's gone for triple huntsman as well. These guys pretty good in this matchup. They can do good long-range damage up against the very squishy bombers, gunners, and so forth, as well as having stalk to approach the enemy without them knowing about it, but also have anti-large to help deal with crabs. Over here, hidden in the trees, we have a nice cav contingent. We have 1, 2, 3 units of Empire Knights. These guys are relatively cheap, but you don't have to go too expensive up against the coast. Rocking 110 armor, they're certainly tanky, can get in their back line and cause a mess. Looks like on the left-hand flank we have 1 more unit of Empire Knights, and rocking the leadership here is the glorious Volkmar the Grim up on top of his chariot here. Just look at that moustache. Not too much more can be said about him. Going to bring Grand Soulfire, Grand Shield of Faith, Grand Hammer of Sigma, all the grands, Banishment, and of course he does have the Jade Griffin, so he does have regeneration. He's an incredibly tanky lord, is unbreakable, and causes terror. I've seen him win so many games in the late game, but of course terror not going to play a factor in this matchup against the undead. He does have an Empire Captain on foot as well, which is an interesting inclusion here. Looks like he is completely naked, so no items or anything. And a Bright Wizard coming with Burning Head and Fireball, as well as a Power Stone. So let's get this battle underway. Empire have to take the initiative here and push forward. Of course, that is the double mortar going to be doing some pretty consistent damage overall. Looks like Flagellants are trying to juke the shots as much as possible. And mortar's not the most accurate of fellas either. I would be switching targets as much as possible just to keep, Soothsayer's micro honest. Looks like Luther going to be popping forward, trying to snipe out some characters. Probably a good idea to go after this Bright Wizard, but now the Huntsmen have been revealed, slowly arcing some shots over there. But it looks like most of them did go a little bit high and wide there, and Luther now dodging back and forth. You can see him strafing as the mortars do instantly switch onto the Huntsman. Fantastic micro there coming in by Faust to recognise the threat, and he's simply duking out the shots here, not taking too much damage on Luther here. Good play all round so far. A couple of shots are going into the trees as well after the bombers recognising they are going to be a huge threat. And you can see how much damage the bombers do on 1 or 2 casts. But in comes a huge Burning Head. It's catching the bombers. It looks like the deckhand mobs were quickly microed away, but they still took huge damage. And oh no, disaster! Is it going to hit the second handgunners? It looks like it is. Massive value there coming from that Burning Head. Bright Wizard already up to 151 kills. That is a bit of a disaster in the front line, unfortunately, but very hard to see amongst the trees. Empire Knights come crashing into the zombie pirate deckhand mobs as well. Good engagement for them, so they're going to be dragging down their opponents, but Hornswoggle has been popped. Luther himself may even decide to jump in, but instead goes for a breath attack, fortunately catching quite a few of his own men there. Looks like the Huntsman constantly being quite dogged here, hunting down Luther Harkin where possible, putting that consistent pressure on him. But it looks like Sigma Suns are breaking through the front line despite the huge damage they took. But here come the Scurvy Dogs, forcing their way through the front line, and these Huntsmen are nice and juicy for the taking. All 3 units could be shut down if Soothsayer is not paying attention. Big Management comes down on the left-hand flank by Volkmar, doing some great damage onto the handgunners overall. We have some Spearmen holding forth, and Empire Knight's going to be rolling in. Rotten Prometheans trying to blob up the opponent where possible. It looks like the Empire slowly managing to grind this out with some nice prayers active as well to help bring down the Rotten Prometheans. In the back line, Scurvy Dogs are feasting hungrily, having to break off 1 Huntsman already, but nice counterplay here coming in. Bright Wizard and Swordsman rallying to the cause, as well as some Empire Knights going to be lancing down those doggos, and the dogs simply do not have the punching power or the bite to break through the thick armour of the Empire Knights. Really nice play by both players there, recognising the threat and managing to neutralise it. The second unit of Scurvy Dogs, it looks like it's forcing their way through the trees as well to hunt down these units, but Empire Knights are constantly on their tail here, and the Rotten Prometheans doing a good job and getting some okay kills here up to 12. But with Volkmar dropping all his prayers, they're slowly being dragged down here as the balance of power does start going in the Empire favour. If we check in on Luther here, he's not doing too bad, hunting down Empire Knights with his taunts, trying to take away the mobility of the Empire forces, which is a really good play. Try to protect his mortars as much as possible, allow them to clear out the chaff. Unfortunately though, Flagellants have managed to push through to the back line, and these are in fact the Tattered Souls who have Frenzy, who are really quickly going to be able to demolish these pole arms and hunt down the mortars. So it looks like this one is going to be shut down relatively quickly, and the one in the trees as well has been crumbling for a little while here. Nice cycle charging from the Empire Knights. The Summon of the Guns does come down, try to do some extra damage to Volkmar, but the Empire are all over the coast like a rash at this point, hunting them down wherever possible. In the back line though, these Scurvy Dogs still going for it despite 2 Empire Knights plus Swordsmen trying to hunt them down. Faust's micro of these guys is so impressive, and they've been an absolute pain here, managing to shut down the archery line. But it looks like Huntsmen have been popped up here, and can be used very effectively on these Rotten Prometheans. And not really sure he can come down on the Empire Knights, who have been hornswoggled here, lowering their armour and so forth, certainly scrapping, but Sooth is just everywhere on the battlefield. It is so hard to micro here defensively against him, and as you can see, he's got decent engagements all over the field. Flagellants and Spearmen going to be rocking up and hunting down the Rotten Prometheans, who are just getting bogged down in combat, and Volkmar is full health, rolling dirty here through the front lines. Now, Luther Harkin certainly can go toe-to-toe with him in a melee duel, but there's so many supporting elements here. The Huntsmen are once again active, and the Scurvy Dogs have finally been dealt with by these courageous men of the Empire. And with that gone, the Huntsmen basically have free range. The coast a very slow faction overall. Rotten Prometheans slowly going to be dragged down. They're again bogged in here up against the Tattered Souls, and Luther Harkin can fly over here and try his best to shut them down, but if he gets surrounded by Empire Knights and then focus fired by these Huntsmen, he's certainly not going to be having a good time of it. But he does manage to pop onto these guys for now, crushing a few of them between his undead claws. Empire Knights, though, just going to be trying to focus down at the rest of the force. Deckhand mobs slowly being beaten down. We can see the Rotten Prometheans are starting to waver here in critical binding. They've been holding for a very long time. Some effective invocation in the Hex being allowing them to pin in the enemy forces for a decent amount. And the Empire are slowly running out of steam here. You can see they have a lot more units on the field currently. But Empire Knights starting to break all over the place. Flagellant's looking very tattered, and some of the deckhand mobs have rallied here in the back lines. It looks like the Huntsman getting some nice crossfire onto Luther, and he could get pinned on the ground here, which could be disastrous for him. The mass of the Knights keeping him down, and oh no, he might just have to turn and fight this here. If he has any of his debuffs, that can be pretty effective. The Grand Shield of Faith has been popped. Nice 22% damage resistance to everything within this circle. So the Empire Knights all of a sudden are incredibly tanky. Luther Harkin trying to escape, but he's been pinned down here. And now the crossfire is coming in from the Huntsman. Without the Scover Dogs to hunt them down, this is looking very bleak. But Luther somehow manages to pull his way free here. And he may be able to get back up into the skies. Looks like a Hornswaggle was popped down on the Empire Knights, trying to slow them down and allow him to escape. But in comes a second unit, lancing into his flank here. He's trying to crawl away with all his might. I can already hear in the back of my mind the clicking that must be going on here, trying to drag him away. But his forces are crumbling around him. Unfortunately, another effective burning head coming in, dragging down some more units. Sigma Sun's still fighting, up to 145 kills is pretty crazy. Rotten Prometheans slowly being dragged down by Spearmen and constant cycle charging from Empire Knights. And Luther has been all over this back line, trying to get back up into the skies. Hornswaggle has worn off, unfortunately. I don't know if he's going to be able to get back up. At least he's avoiding some of the Huntsman fire and the Wrath of Volkmar so far. Going to be getting in the trees, perhaps trying to peel away where possible. Then this main fight, we can see the Rotten Prometheans slowly being dragged down here, but not doing too bad. Up to 57 kills. Their leadership is -10 though, and they are crumbling. Balance power so near army losses, but a fantastic fight here by both of these competitors. And a lovely Death Shriek is going to be coming in here, trying to pin off more Empire Knights. Looks like Luther did finally get back up into the air, but he is incredibly beat up at this point. Maybe some effective invocations could keep him going. Looks like there's some nasty magic at work here. A taunt has been popped on these Empire Knights, and they are slowly getting dragged down here. Perhaps there's a chance for some initial sniping. Looks like Luther was going to be coming down onto this Bright Wizard. But a big burning head going to come in, roasting those zombie pirate deckhand mobs. And yeah, I think that is unfortunately a game. Rotten Prometheans are starting to struggle. Vampire Fleet Captain not doing too bad. Volkmar, though, is full health and wrecked here. And Huntsman getting in some decent shots. Luther down to just 2,400 health. Looks like the ultimate showdown of Ultimate Destiny is about to kick off here, as Luther does commit to this big blob fight. Going after the Empire Captain, not a bad shout. Trying to assist the Vampire Fleet Captain. But Luther is here as well, and he is smiting crabs left, right, and centre. It looks like Grand Hammer of Sigma has been popped, plus 24 melee attack, and army losses do set in, and that is going to be game 0 to Soothsayer. Momentum certainly in his favour. Very well played to both the competitors. So good game overall. I quite like both builds. The Scurry Dogs, nice inclusion. I managed to shut down some of the Huntsmen, in fact deleting some here, and at least kept them honest as well. Mortars did okay, 30 and 40 kills, but unfortunately he just got a little bit swarmed. The 4 Knights really managed to overrun him. The Knights plus Volkmar and some effective burning heads, 218 kills, managed to win the day. Luther kept on going though, a nice dogged fight till the end, sniping out where he could. Really close game. And on we go to game 3. So let's quickly update the scoreboard. Sooth is 2-0 here, and this is a best of 5, so this could be the final game, or is Faust going to be able to bring it back here? Let's quickly open up a blocker, so you guys can't see how many replays are left. And let's load it up. So game 3 is going to be a caster's nightmare. Norska versus Norska. I actually managed to get home from work in time to see this game. I actually popped into the guys' lobby, and they were nice enough to let me kind of sit there and view. So I have already seen this game, but we're going to be popping in here and seeing it. And they just allowed me to stay for the rest of the tournament, which is always good. So we are going to watch this replay. I'm going to pop back out, take away the screen blocker, and we're good to go. So we do have Norska versus Norska. Thankfully, the guys do have 2 different lords, so hopefully we'll be able to differentiate. And this is a really interesting game. Mirror matches are always quite tough to know what to pick, as it's not a match you practice very often. So we're going to get in here and check out the builds. So down here, and for the greens, it is going to be Tlaxtlan Soothsayer, coming in with Wulfric the Wanderer on top of his Mighty Mammoth, one of the best duelists in the game, and an absolute beast here. But of course, Norskans very famous famously known for taking down big monsters, so a very risky pick as well. Hunter champions coming in, Fight or Die and Sea Fang, which is going to be very powerful. I did not know Sea Fang applies Frostbite, slowing you down by 36 speed. Learn something new every day. Very powerful ability overall. Going to help clear out the chaff. He's gone for triple Famir warriors with great weapons here in the front line. These guys, of course, do the good old armor sundering, magic damage, and have a nice bonus versus large. And for his front line, he's gone cheap and cheerful with some marauders in the first line. And in the secondary line, we do have marauder berserkers, the Ragnar Lothbroks of the Total War Warhammer world. Actually, probably more Rolo. He was a bit more of a berserker. But these guys, dual wielding axe infantry, clear through chaff so effectively, and they're going to be fantastic at dealing with enemy marauders. We do have a Famir Balefiend of Fire. They have been very popular so far today, coming in with Burning Head, Cascading Fire Cloak, and a really important ability which I think is so powerful, Scroll of Shielding. You can apply it to an ally that includes a unit and gives them 22% damage resistance for a very, very long duration. It also has one unit of Marauder Horsemen for a bit of light skirmishing, but basically a big old punch to the face build. Going to be trying to break through the lines of the enemy. Now over here, if we have a little look at the second Norscan forces, we do have double Marauder Horsemen for Faust over on the left-hand flank, so he definitely has the advantage in the skirmish game straight off the bat here with two of those guys. But in the front line, a bit more cheap Marauder Spearmen, as well as some Marauder Champions though. So a smaller front line by far, a couple of Spearmen, a couple of Champions, but the Champions will do fantastic in this front line and hold for a decent amount of time. Double Marauder Hunters with Javelins are going to be so effective and key here. He needs to protect these guys and shut down the Famir and Wulfric with them. These guys really good at taking down enemies, anti-large, decent arc of fire as well. In the centre pocket, we do have a Norscan Giant, something you don't get to see terribly often. Very cool looking model. Really going to struggle up against those Famir, but can certainly pack a punch itself, and is going to help win the front line, as well as Frog himself and his glorious beard here. He is going to be coming in with the Wintertooth Crown, can make someone unbreakable for a limited amount of time, as well as Fight or Die. So overall, not too bad. Does have regeneration, but is weak to fire. And instead of going for the Famir, it looks like he has in fact gone for the Skinwolf. So we have two Skinwolves in the back pocket here, and one on the left-hand flank. These guys will lose to Famir, I believe, in a one-on-one fight, but they do have regeneration. They're faster, and they can try and get the key engagement. And that is what this entire battle is going to be about. We do have a Shaman Sorcerer of Fire, so both fire but two different casters. Once again, coming in with Scroll of Shielding, Burning Head, Flaming Sword of Ruin, and Cascading Fire Cloak. So without further ado, let's get some nice slow-mo action as they do charge in. And let's get underway. Bam! As the forces do clash together here. Marauders going up against Marauder Spearmen, hunting each other down as much as possible. Marauder Champions in the front line. Looks like they're not going to get the counter charge off. Marauder Berserker's going to be getting in here, but in comes Frog and the Giant, and they are going to butcher these Berserkers very quickly. But the Famir Warriors are going to be used as a counter charge unit here. Burning Head does come, but very nice micro by force. Looks like he spotted it, managed to dodge, but it still caught some of them, and did some huge damage. In the back lines, Marauder Horsemen being sacrificed to try and shut down these Javelins, realising they're a huge threat, but lovely counter charge by the Skinwolves, going to be hunting those guys down. And in the main engagement, Fight or Die has been popped. And a huge fight going down here as a second Burning Head is going to come in, but I think slightly miss. It looks like he's going to catch a few of these guys as they do retreat, but looks like it needs to be cast a little bit closer to friendly troops. Sea Fang being popped down, and this is just a full-fledged fisticuff fight in the middle. So much going on in one go. It looks like the Marauder Horseman trying to throw the Javelins into Wulfric where possible, but he is still very healthy. And in this main engagement, the Giant and Frog struggling here up against the Famir Warriors. They're given as good as they get, but they're taking some huge damage. Scroll of Shielding popped early on Frog. He probably still wants to be engaged in combat when this is popped. But of course, he does have the bonus of regeneration, and he's going to be turning around for a lovely counter charge here. Wulfric just rolling over some troops in the main engagement, already up to 36 kills and is very healthy. This is where Faust is going to really need to out-skirmish Soothsayer where possible. He has the advantage of the Horsemen, who are now getting really decent engagements up on top of the Famir. The Skinwolves as well being used as the backline protection tool to protect the Hunters, which is key. These guys need to rally and come back and use all their Javelins on Wulfric. Skinwolves used to cycle charge Berserkers and drag these guys down. Huge engagement in the centre pocket here, as the Giant and Frog is going toe-to-toe with Wulfric and so many Famir, but in come the Skinwolves, getting a really nice rear charge here, going to try to break these wolves. Looks like Wulfric not doing too bad here. The Scroll of Shielding has been popped, and this is huge. He would be taking so much damage from Frog and this Giant here, but 22% of that is going to go for absolute nothing. You can see him taking a huge pound in here. But if that Scroll of Shielding wasn't popped on him, he seriously could have been brought down to as low as quarter health there, as there is a ton of Horseman Javelin Fire coming in as well. Looks like it is focusing down the Familiar Warriors instead of kind of trying to nuke out Wulfric, but not a bad idea considering Scroll of Shielding has been popped. Looks like Marauder Champion still fighting relatively strong, up to 98 kills there, holding back 2 units and doing a huge amount of work. Spearmen are rallying, but a fantastic Sea-Fan going to be coming down and raking through the Marauder Horsemen. They're doing some pretty good damage overall. And the big blob fight certainly going at the way of Soothsayer and Wulfric. Scroll of Shielding still going on. That thing lasts for absolute ages. And you can see how low he is. Without that, I think this middle pocket would certainly be going a different way. But for now, looks like the Norscan Giant is getting dragged down, fighting to the death here, it would seem. Only 169 health left, and he does finally break. Frogger encouraging his fellow lad on there. Got some more champions in the back line and a Supreme Sorceress of Fire, but this is certainly a very close game still. The centre pocket was indeed won by the forces of Wulfric, but Frog is simply going to be able to retreat here and regenerate up, and the Marauder Hunters are now back. They need to try and get some really key engagements, allow Frog to beat down the Berserkers and so forth, and use the Skin Wolves to cycle charge and throw everything you now have at Wulfric. Now that Scroll of Shielding is gone, and then you can simply surround the Familiar Warriors and the late game and out-skirmish them to death. Looks like Chamber Sorcerer of Fire has unfortunately been caught here, but looks like on his horse is going to be able to get away and rally to the Marauder Horsemen. Over here on the far side, looks like Berserkers did manage to chew down some Spearmen, but there's some Skirmish Cav here who can do some effective cycle charging into them to slowly beat them down. And Frog is regenerating. The longer this game goes on, the more it's going to favour Frog's Norse guns here. Marauder Hunters are trying to fall back, but Familiar Warriors are relatively fast actually, coming in at 45 speed up against Marauder Hunters at 35. So yeah, they're going to be caught here. And they need to try and pull these guys away as much as possible and probably hop on them with the Skin Wolves. But looks like those guys were in fact trying to snipe out a different unit, which is all good to see. Wulfric popping foes, so he's getting danger low here, still 3,300 health. It always looks like he's more beat up than he is simply due to the huge amount he does have. I would possibly even just, is it a good idea to throw Frog in here? There's still double Familiar Warriors working as a bodyguard, and even this Sorcerer here as well can pack a decent punch. So Wulfric going to be trying to finish off Frog here. Let's fling him to the ground, and 100 Champions going to be slowing down the Troll King indeed. Looks like Marauded Horsemen are going to be thrown in here just to try and rescue their Lord, which isn't a bad idea at all. Fight or Die has been popped trying to give him that boost. You can see Javelins are being thrown over here. A ton of ammunition left on these Marauder Hunters. Could certainly bring down Wulfric given time, but it looks like Cascading Firecloak has been popped, given the extra melee defense as he does start to wade in. But the second unit of Hunters, so much ammunition left, has unfortunately been hunted down by Familiar Warriors. Great diligent play by Soothsayer, recognising the threats and hunting them down. Skin Wolves contemplating going over there to try and rescue the situation. Once again, these guys will regenerate. The longer the game goes on, the better for them. Chamber Sorcerer of Fire just chilling here. Marauder Hunters slowly being hunted down though, which is really disastrous. These guys need to be protected at all costs, but unfortunately here's nothing to chuck in to protect against them. If the Skin Wolves commit, if Frog commits, they're not going to be able to do enough damage quickly, and then Wulfric and this Goon Squad is going to come in here and, you know, bring pain. Skin Wolves trying to rally to Frog here and regenerate as much as possible. Regeneration is relatively slow though, and Warhammer games do go quite quickly, so it's not, you know, the be-all and end-all if these guys are left for a little while. Familiar Warriors are going to be chasing these guys all the way to the edge of the battlefield, which is certainly worth it at the point. No point letting all that ammunition come back to deal damage. This game can certainly go any which way. I think Soothsayer's Wulfric is slightly in the lead here. He, of course, can do 100 Champions and so forth, and Frog. But Flaming Sword of Ruin comes in, and this is going to be the big engagement. In come the Skin Wolves, in come Frog, and he has popped the Wintertooth Crown as well, trying to make himself unbreakable as he wades into glorious hand-to-hand combat, screaming, "I is the best." And a big bump there, staggering the mighty Mammoth with his huge club there, whacking him in the rear. And Wulfric has turned around, so he's going to be taking shots from behind, which is certainly not what he wants to do. Down to just 1,700 health, but Cascading Firecloak going to be keeping him very tanky. And the Skin Wolf's nerve is starting to falter as the balance power does go away, and Frog is going to be retreating. The Hunter of Champions has been popped on him, and that is going to be game 3-0 in this best of 5 to the mighty Sooth. But that game could have really gone either which way. If that Scroll of Shielding hadn't been popped at that time, Wulfric would certainly be done for, and I think it could have got certainly swung the other direction. So let's go to the end stats here. Upgrade ups the scoreboard. Oh, for a minute there, I was worried I'd left the screen blocker up or something stupid. Normally, I have loads of glorious people in the stream chat letting me know if I do that type of thing. So I'll go through the armies in just a second, but thank you guys for coming to check out this video. Big apologies that we had the technical issues last time, and I wanted to stream this one as well, but there's other streams going on as we speak, plus Steam does update on Tuesdays, and I didn't want to have problems once again, so I wanted to get all the videos out as quickly as possible. But massive shout out to both of these guys. Soothsayer has booked his place in the grand finals alongside ODM's Anticity and Extreme Meme Team's very own Noob for Life. There still is one spot available. Feel free to join my Discord if you are interested in competing. This was an insane tournament. We had over 45 people playing, which is the largest tournament I've run. It went on for hours and hours and hours, but was such good fun. Some crazy games, underdog's tales, and the big boy, the king of the jungle, coming in as well to claim victory here. And you can still book your place. So I'll be updating Challenge soon, which is where we host the tournaments. I'll do that over the next couple of days and book a date in for next week. But I hope you guys did enjoy. If you did, please do give the video a big old thumbs up and a subscribe. We do all things Total War Warhammer. We're currently doing an Imrit campaign, as well as loads of multiplayer games, tournaments, King of the Hills, and all that good stuff. Now for the builds, I actually really like the pick of Frog here more than Wulfric. Yes, Hunter of Champions is very powerful, but Frog, he can deal with Wulfric. He's very good at anti-large, and I guess he's good against himself as well, and he helps beat down that front line quite quickly. And Wulfric on his Mammoth is incredibly expensive, but the combination of Wulfric, Scroll of Shielding, and the Cascading Fire Cloak makes him incredibly tanky, and he allowed the Famir Warriors then to win the engagement. They beat down the enemy and certainly did some good work. If he had brought Flaming Sword of Ruin, I think it would have been very, very bad for Faust, because Skinwolves, of course, yes, they have regeneration, but that makes them weak to fire, and that Flaming Sword could have caused big problems. So there is a weakness to this build, but overall, I really like it. Marauder Champions coming in and certainly giving the business to the rest of the Norscan infantry line, so he didn't have to go too wide, and that allowed him to play the skirmish game. Decent kills all round by these guys, and good protection as well. Certainly got in there and did some damage, but at the end of the day, it came down to a Soothsayer managing to win that big blob engagement and keep these guys busy long enough, and slowly chase them down at the end with the Famir Warriors to win the game. But hope you guys did enjoy. Massive shout outs to both of these guys, and Soothsayer for becoming this week's champion. Anyway guys, until next time, peace, and as always, stay awesome.